everyone. Welcome to another episode of Teacher Affirmations. I am your creator and host, David Seal. One of the tough things about being in education is that it's not a job where you get tons of validation and affirmation for the work that you do, for the time that you spend, the extra hours that you spend at home, grading papers, doing stuff, the extra time you spend after school, before school, all of the things that you do throughout the course of the day that are not just a part of your job, but something that is, it's tending to the needs of, folks who, need you, and you're needed all day long, and the pats on the back are few and far between. And a lot of times, most of the time we just have to say to ourselves, well, I know, even though I'm not being told this, but I know that I'm making a difference. And that's the thing. Little kids at the elementary level don't really quite understand that you're making a difference, and older kids, they're too cool to tell you. So, and parents, well, every now and then, you'll get that parent who sends you the kind email or the nice note or something that lets you know that you're making, and hopefully you've got some administrators, some people in your building who can validate you and can remind you that you're making a difference. But a lot of times we just have to tell ourselves that, the difference between fact and faith, and we just have to have faith that we're making a difference. But it's hard sometimes because we do need that real, pat on the back, that attaboy, attagirl that lets us know that all of the time and the effort that we're spending is not in vain. But just to let you know that you never know. So most of you are probably familiar with it's a small little book called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And either you read it when you were in school, or if you're an elementary teacher, you might read it to your class, or your class might read it around the holidays. If you're not familiar with it, it's a delightful story, and it's funny, and it's a good read. But it's set in this small town, and the focus is this all-important elementary school Christmas pageant that is put on every year, and it's the focal point of the community around the holiday season. And it focuses on this family called the Herdmans. And there's a ton of Herdman children. They are rude and uncouth. They are bullies. They are constantly in trouble. They have just no regard for others. They defend each other fiercely, and they're just a handful. And the reason I tell you about that, or remind you of it if you are familiar with the book, is that every school has a Herdman. Every school has that family, and administrators will tell you they can think back to every Herdman family they've ever had, and it's usually like 3 or more siblings who just are, their behavior's terrible, and the parents are usually terrible, and they're just every teacher. When they get their role in August, says that they say to themselves, please, sweet golden baby Jesus, do not let me have a Herdman this year. Because everyone in the building knows about the Herdmans. So, several years ago, I was the principal at an intermediate school, grades 3 through 6, and we had a family of Herdmans, and it was a brother and 5 sisters. And I didn't know the oldest sister because she was at the high school, but I knew of her because the alternative school was right behind my school, and she was a consistent resident there at the alternative school. Out of all of them, the brother was the easiest to get along with, but because he was constantly having to defend his sisters, he was always in trouble as well. But the younger sisters, there was one in particular, we'll call her Jane, not her name, but she was the worst, and always fighting, picking on folks, defiant. The parents were no bargain either. The dad was okay, but he was kind of in and out of the picture based on whatever mood mom was in, and she was crazy, and I'm not trying to belittle the situation in that family. There was a whole lot of stuff going on At the same time, though, we at the school were the ones who were having to deal with, the Herdmans. So fast forward about 3 years, and I am working in another system, and I was working at a central office position, an instructional coordinator position, and I worked with about 15, 20 schools, and worked with the principals. And so I had an appointment with a middle school principal, and I got there, and folks in the office, they knew me pretty well. They said, "Oh, Mr. Seal, go on back. The principal's meeting with the student right now, but he said to go ahead and send you on back." All right, so I go in, knock on the door. "Hey, David, come on in. Just have a seat right here next to my friend here. I'm trying to get in touch with a parent. We're having some issues." All right, go in, I sit down, sit in the chair, and I look over. It's Jane Herdman. And her face was extremely surprised to see mine. And she was, looked at me, and I said, well, Jane. So we're here in the principal's office. This isn't where I wanted to see you. And this is what Herdmans will do. Instead of being like, "Oh no," a small smirk. That's all it was. But it was basically a facial expression that said, "Yeah, I'm here. You knew I'd be here. And why wouldn't I be here? And whatever it was I did, I'll do it again tomorrow if someone makes me." Because that's what a Herdman does. And, but I didn't want to, she was about to be in trouble for something. I didn't want to pile on. So I just said, "Well, how's your brother? How are your sisters?" And they said, "Oh, my mom moved to Georgia, and my oldest 2 sisters went to go live with her, but me and my other sisters, my brother, live with my dad. That's why we're living here, and that's why we're at this school," whatever. I said, "Okay." And then I looked at her and I said, "I'm probably the last person you wanted to see." And she looked at me kind of surprised, and she said, "No, I like you, Mr. Seal. You're the best principal I've ever had. You actually care about us." If you had told me I just won the lottery and the Olympic gold medal for female gymnastics, I would have been less surprised than a Herdman telling me right there, especially Jane, that not only did she and her siblings, like me, but they appreciated me, that I made a difference, that I had a positive impact, that through my actions, even though I wasn't intentionally saying to myself, "Okay, I really want to do some things to let them know that I care," they felt cared for. And I made a difference. And those are the last types of kids that we think we are making a difference with and for. But we are. We are. If you are doing what you know in your heart is right by each student, okay? If you are on an instructional side, making sure that the instruction that you're giving is standards-based, it's grade level, it is helping them achieve, and on a personal level, you are letting them know that not only that you care because you're there helping them, and you don't have to always, how often during a day going, "I care about you." We don't always have that kind of luxury. We have days where we're lucky enough to remember our own names. But through your actions of treating each student as an individual, but also letting them know in indirect or direct ways that they can be successful, that you care, that you want them to succeed, you're making a difference. Even if we don't always get the opportunity to have that chance encounter like I did with Jane Herdman, where I happened to walk into that office on that day at that moment, and that was the moment that she was in trouble, and she just happened to, of all the schools in the area, be attending. And for her to be able to say that to me, we don't always have that opportunity. We rarely do those chances come. And a lot of times you can tell the teachers who are really focused on what they do by how surprised they are when something like that happens. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I don't sit around in my office and think of, keep tallies on how much positive attention I give to each kid and, how validated I should feel for it. We do our jobs. We wake up in the morning, we get dressed, we go into work, and we do the best we can. And sometimes we walk out in the afternoon feeling like we succeeded, and sometimes we feel defeated, and sometimes we feel indifferent, or we feel burned out, or we feel, great about something that occurred. However we feel when we walk out of the building, know this. You did make a difference. You did make a positive difference. You're having a positive impact. And I know sometimes it's really hard when we don't get that actual, verbal affirmation, that validation of someone actually saying to us, hey, thanks for what you do. Hey, you really made a difference in my life. Hey, my child is better because you were his or her teacher. That rarely happens. Now, if we mess up, a parent will make sure and let us know. Yeah, we know that. But how often do we get that validation? And I've got a handful of those stories of things that have happened to me, and I hold on to those. Because there's some days I've got to pull those out and put them in to remind myself on those days where I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and I'm going nowhere, that I am making a difference. And you are making a difference. Okay? So don't give up. When you feel frustrated, just remember there are dozens, hundreds, depending on how long you've been doing this, many hundreds of kids who are better because of you. They are better because you have the most important job, and they were lucky enough to be in your class. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. And remember, you do have the world's most important job, so keep doing what you're doing. I'll see you next time on another episode of Teacher Affirmations.